to also live stream.
Emma will know. Ekuro
Sure. I don't know record me.
I can't sórí ètò yìí o.
Ẹ ṣé o.
Professor Ọlọ́run Tọ́ba good evening.
Ẹ̀yin ògùn dáre. Prof, ẹ kú àyè bẹ́ẹ̀ o.
Àwa nìyẹn o.
Ẹ pẹ̀lẹ́.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to the first and the maiden edition of our monthly In Conversation With series. This is what I believe, one session that I believe will be interesting, because we're talking not just about the experience of our guest speaker, but also about lessons, particularly in relation to research funding, which is one area where I know from firsthand experience, having worked in Nigeria for many years myself, that some of us tend to struggle. And this is not peculiar to Nigeria, it's common in African countries where, apart from the fact that there is scarcity of funding in the overall research landscape, there is also limited availability of information. And as we used to say on the street, if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. It is as simple as that. So this is one of the reasons why we've decided to start with Professor Rashid Gbade-Geshin. I won't do much of an introduction. This is that's a bit counterintuitive, because usually when you have a guest on a talk like this, you want to start with an introduction and all that. So I will not start, because this is a bit unconventional in approach. It's a conversation series, and this is where, so we're going to get a chance to ask him, to tell us a lot more about his background and all that. So it's effectively going to be an informal chat, and this is how we're going to be doing it progressively every month. We have tried to start on time, because we also want to demonstrate the kind of discipline that needs to exist in an academic context, and in this kind of program. So we encourage colleagues and ladies and gentlemen to join us on time. We're also live streaming on YouTube as we speak, in addition to recording this. So this will be available for those who are inevitably unable to join us today. Today's session was supposed to be moderated by our brother Akintunde, but he's unavoidably absent. So I've decided to step in his stead. I'm assuming that everybody on the call can speak a certain amount of Yoruba. So forgive me, Prof, if I ask that we, intersperse, even though I know that this is for a global audience, given that we're recording and it's live stream on YouTube. But at the same time, there's an element of, homeliness that might intersperse from time to time. So, so allow me to get started right away. And we have only 1.5 hours for this. I believe there's going to be a lot to share, and we will all learn one thing or the other. Can I ask that as we proceed, ladies and gentlemen, you can put your questions in the chat. There will also be opportunity for you to unmute yourself and ask Prof some questions as we go along. But let me get started. Professor Gbade-Geshin, you are currently based in the United States. So my first question to you will be, can you tell us who is Rashid Gbade-Geshin and how did you end up where you are today?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And so the first thing is actually to express my appreciation to the organizer for asking me to do this. And I took this very serious when I got the invitation. And I do give a lot of talks in the process of my professional life. And I'm just so proud that this is the first talk that I'm actually giving in 2025. And it's really important that I am giving this talk to this very unique audience. It's like giving a talk to a family. So in that light, I will just start by saying that Rashid Barigeshin was born in Iliogun, Isale Bashorum, Oyo. So very proud of that. And I did my own work and actually asked my senior brother, who is also here, asking him which local government do we belong to now? And it turned out that we are actually part of Atiba local government. No surprise there, because Atiba Hall is actually within walking distance of our ancestral home. Okay. So when the question that you're asking about how I got into medicine and how I got into academic medicine is actually a very, very, very interesting and complex question. It's like, just looking back and why did you decide to do this? So I will start by saying that I count myself very lucky and very fortunate to be a member of the family of, to be a Barigeshin and to be a member of my family. And the reason why I say that is I am richly blessed that I had parents who actually valued education, despite the fact that the environment that we're growing in at that time, I would say that probably about 75% of the people, within the area at that time actually do not consider education very important. But right from the word go, my parents, especially my dad, actually made us realize right from the word go that education is very important, and education is one of the best leveler ever known in history. So I knew right from the word go that the stake and the bar for me was actually very high. You have no option about this when your own dad nicknamed you from elementary school as Rashid Everfirst. So that was my nickname, and it's still my nickname up till now. And you have brothers who are very sound intellectually, who you can actually look up to as mentor, sponsor, and role model. And I'm talking about my brother, Professor Adeni Igbarigeshin, the immediate past Vice Chancellor of Lautech, and at different times, Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences, you are head of Department of Geography, and also our senior brother, Mr. Razak Igbarigeshin, who retired as a permanent secretary in Oyo State Ministry of Education many years ago. So I have been very, very fortunate to be born in an environment where I just look at it that, the sky is the limit. Okay, so why medicine? So I got into medicine because, we all grew up in Oyo, and we know that, when you are in elementary school, high school, there's always this feel that, okay, you have to, one of the attributes, one of the things that is expected is that you have to be in some of this, high flying, profession, because people look at you that you are brilliant. Although just looking at my life now, I actually do not think that you have to be extra brilliant and to be a doctor. In fact, the people that actually do very well in academic medicine are actually people that are above average. The most important thing is actually for you to be a person, that kind of thing. You like people and you like interacting with people. That's the most important attribute, and that you are, very, very compassionate. Okay. So, but I got into medicine based on the experience growing up, looking at people, you know, very common, um, very common clinical conditions, sometimes causing a lot of misery and in extreme, actually causing, mortality. Um, I've been blessed with a very healthy family, but occasionally when we have to go to state hospital Ode Oyo, I actually see medical professionals, the way they carry themselves, and that actually left an indelible mark on me. Now, in terms of getting to medical school, I got into medical school and I basically went through my clinical rotation and I discovered because of the way we are trained in Nigeria, it is hands-on compared with this part of the world. And the training being hands-on is actually because of the limitations that we have there, the fact that we do not have many practitioners. So medical students are actually given a lot of responsibility. When they give you a lot of responsibility, you're actually given the opportunity to get your hand wet. And when you get your hand wet, you actually make an informed decision on what you want to be. So for pediatrics, what actually caught it for me was when I was doing my rotation in pediatric emergency room at UCH, I saw children coming in, just 18, 19-year-old, medical student, giving you responsibility. You go through all the teachings that you've received, and then you get things done, and then you see the patient actually getting better. So that was very important for me. Graduating from medical school, I know that I want to do academic medicine because by the time I was finishing house job and doing my national service at General Hospital Daura, I was already getting bored that this is damn too routine for my life. That's number one. And then the second thing is that I actually believe that yes, when you see patient in hospital, you save one life at a time. But when you do research and you actually make discovery that are very impactful, you actually save millions, right? And that has been my guiding principle wherever I find myself, be it in Nigeria, United Kingdom. I practice in United Kingdom, did research in United Kingdom briefly before coming to the US. Does that answer your question? I think you are muted.
Yes. Thank you very much, Prof. I think you've done justice to the question. And as they say, for any job well done, there will always be the best reward for that is more work. While you were speaking, I picked up on something that is interesting, and the fact that part of the factors that are attributable for where you are today is the mentorship, the nudge, and the direction and the support that you received from your parents, from the word go. Now, there are two questions that popped up in my head as you mentioned that. And the first one is, so my parents are not entirely supportive of education. What do I do as a young person? That's one. And I'm asking this question in context because I know that some of the, some of our audience and, anyone who may be watching on YouTube, maybe now or later might be wondering, what is the relevance of a question like that? I'm sure that Prof understands why I'm asking that. Our context. It's not a given, all right? That parents want to send you to school, especially if you're a girl child. So my parents are not particularly interested, or after I finish WAEC, the next thing is, and people make the arguments of, that boy that finished PhD is here still looking for a job. That one that did masters is here still looking for a job. That one came back from service, is here just disturbing the neighborhood and so on and so forth, So what do I do if I have parents like that, or I grow up in that kind of context? That's number one. Then number two is, what role would you say that as outside your parents, other mentors and other significant voices have played in your own pathway?
All right. Thank you very much. And so I like that first question that you asked about growing up in an environment where you have many people who are actually not supportive of basic education, and talk less of saying that, you want to go into university, get higher degrees, and then become a researcher. And that is where community is actually very important. And that is where that is one of the roles that we're supposed to play in our immediate community. We've got to identify individuals like that. And when you identify them, you you will make effort to provide some kind of support group for them. You continue to encourage them. You continue to empathize with them, and you continue to reassure them every day that they are doing the right thing and that the sky is the limit. That is what mentoring, sponsorship, it's all about. It's not, mentoring is not when, we are in our ivory tower and then you have some people allocated to you, which that's another subject entirely in terms of mentoring. Somebody, they allocate someone to you, mentor this person. And that's actually not the way mentoring should actually play up. Now, to your second question, and I'm very, very passionate about this because in my daytime job, apart from looking after patients, apart from doing my biomedical research, one of the other things that I'm actually charged with in the institution that I'm working in now is actually leading a program that is actually committed to structured mentoring for early career stage investigators and our trainees. So the formula for success in academic are 1, mentoring, 2, mentoring, and then 3, mentoring.
Mentoring.
Absolutely. That is absolutely very, very important. And when we talk about mentoring, it's just not the power mentoring of, the mentor is an emeritus professor and the mentee is, just starting, not that kind of power thing. And there are different ways by which you can mentor people. Okay, so what I've just described is actually the classic mentor. You have somebody who has been very, very successful in his own. The person actually has a track record of mentoring, and you look at the person is very approachable, and the person is actually invested in your career. So that's the classic mentoring. But there are other ways by which we can actually mentor one another. There's what we call peer mentoring. Okay. You have peer and near peer mentoring, people that are actually very close to you in the career stage that you are in. You get a lot from, forming that kind of, alliance in terms of mentoring. Okay. The other form of mentoring is what I actually call not peer, so peer, P-E-R. So it's actually what I call peered mentoring. And I can't remember that I've actually ever seen that in any book that I've read, but I actually came up with that based on my personal experience. So as I get older in this career, it turned out that I'm always traveling, okay? And then I keep getting people who would like to work with me, okay? Then I have grad students, I have postdoctoral fellows, I have junior faculty that are working with me. Those people are actually much more present on the ground to actually hold people's hand and actually mentor them. So I did an experiment probably about 5 to 10 summers ago where basically I just bring in students within our institution and from other institutions. And they say, yeah, we'd like to work with you. I said, okay, fine. You're going to work with me, but I'm not going to be the one holding your hand. Actually, if I want to hold your hand, I won't be able to do it because I'm not available 100%. So basically, I have people within my group that actually identify as the primary mentor or the mentor that will actually hold the hand of the mentee. And then, if you want to put it that way, then I will actually be the grandparent mentor or something like that. I found that that actually worked beautifully well. And pretty much the advantage is that the young mentee has somebody to look up to on a regular basis. He doesn't have to wait for a visiting professor that may not be around for 3 days out of 5 days in a week. That's number one. The second thing is that the junior person is actually being trained to a mentor. So that way, you're actually building a mentoring pipeline. And like I said, the tonic for success in academics and in biomedical research is that you need to have a solid mentor and sponsor. And then the other form of mentoring that I actually like talking about is actually what I call reverse mentoring. And people ask me, what is reverse mentoring? So it turned out that the younger we are, the more likely that we are going to be versed with technology, and the older folks may not necessarily be current with the current technology yet. That current technology may actually make their life a lot easier in terms of getting things done. So reverse mentoring is actually asking the person that you've mentored or somebody that is junior to you to actually mentor you and guide you in navigating technology. So let me give an example. So just about a week or two ago, one of my mentee in the lab. So I was on clinical service and I didn't have a junior person that was working with me for that clinical service. And then they generate all sorts of templates and all that. And I was sitting down, I was trying to do some things. I said, yeah, this is not the way we were doing this before. So I simply sent a text to this junior person and I said, it's quite interesting that I'm the one actually asking the question now. When did you people develop this template? And what is the rationale for it? And what is the advantage? And she was actually very excited and said, wow, Dr. G, so you can actually ask me question. I said, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be bi-directional. So reverse mentoring is also very, very important. In terms of people that have had, impact on my life, I think I would take it this way that it is very, very important when you are selecting mentor. You want people that our immediate immediate past president in the US, President Joe Biden, actually said that you need to have somebody who is sympathetic with you, somebody that you can relate to easily. And that is actually how you create an enabling and a seamless and a successful mentor mentee relationship. I've been very, very fortunate in my career, and most of the people that have actually mentored me, getting through my career, even right from Nigeria, they're actually some people that you can actually describe as closer to peer mentoring than, the classical mentor-mentee relationship. Although I must mention that there were some people who are a lot older than me, a lot experienced than me, but they look at me as, despite the age difference, despite the gap in the stage of career, they actually look at me as friends. And I think they actually take me more serious than I take myself. And that has been very, very helpful for me. Okay.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that elaborate answer. In fact, you answered one of my other questions that I was going to ask, which is about how do you select a good mentor?
Fantastic.
But I think we would return to that, Prof. We would return to that. That's a question that I would definitely never forget, because it's one of the key takeaways that I want, especially some of our younger ones and early career researchers, to take away from this conversation. How do you know? It's almost like marriage. I've had some people say that finding a good mentor is almost like marriage. You know what they say, love at first sight sometimes, and sometimes you just know. when this is somebody that you can connect with, when this is somebody that you can gel with. But before we return to that, Prof, I want us to talk about funding.
Okay.
You know, when I started, I was saying that funding is something that is not as easy as it should be in our part of the world. There are many reasons for that, and this is where I want us to start. I mean, and then the good thing is that you have experience from both worlds. So you've worked in the global north, you've worked in the global south, in Nigeria specifically, and then you mentioned your experience in the UK, excuse me, and in the US. So I want you to do for us a quick comparison.
Okay.
What are the key differences in terms of the research funding landscape, in terms of availability, and how difficult it is to get access to funding?
Okay, fantastic. So the very first thing, Professor Egbetokun, is that in terms of funding, wherever you find yourself, it is never easy. And what actually drives things is that you have to believe in what you are doing, you have to persevere, and you actually have to be resilient. So let me give you an example. So most of my fundings come from the National Institute of Health, NIH. And the global success rate for any grant submission to NIH, it varies, but the global success rate for any grant submission to the NIH is just about 10%. 10%.
10%, which
10.
means one out of every
10%.
100.
Exactly. So in order for you to get one, you must write about 10. So how realistic is that? So meanwhile, you have other commitments and other responsibility. So the competition is very, very high wherever you find yourself. Now, the big difference between the Western country and our country is that we do not have a robust, setup for funding research in anything, law, biomedical, technology, and all that. I remember when I started as a faculty in the Department of Pediatrics at the College of Medicine, UI, we use our own money to do research. So, and that's the reason why most of the things that I did at that time were mainly observational things. So I have to find a high school student or an undergraduate student, say that, okay, we need to abstract this data, put the data together and then look at it and, try and interpret it. But I hope that things are getting better now because there are actually some initiatives. It is not as grand as what we have in the US. It is not as grand as what is available in the UK. But at least there are actually efforts, towards that. And many of the big academic medical center and sorry, I keep saying academic medical center. Many of the big academic institutions in Nigeria now also have, some kind of, internal mechanism for funding good research and studies. Okay, so that actually leads me to the next question. How do you increase your competitive edge? Okay. The way by which you increase your competitive edge is you have to identify a subject that, okay, this is a problem and we do not have solution to the problem. Okay, you do not start from the perspective of, oh yeah, this is very interesting. I will get, a couple of papers from this. That's not what the funders are looking for. What the funders are looking for are actually what is called, research projects. It is not, the funders are not, at least the serious funders are not looking for, oh yeah, I can do this within, in 1 or 2 years and get a couple of, papers published and then get myself, moving towards being promoted. That's not what the funders are actually looking for. What the funders are looking for are, questions and, questions and projects that is actually going to address and solve a problem. Okay, so that's very important. The other thing that we need to realize is the kind of thing that you applied for actually varies depending on your level in your profession and in your career. So I broadly look at it, I broadly divide it into two. So there are some funding that are geared towards training and career development. Okay. And there are some funding that are actually geared towards people just advancing sciences and then advancing the field and all that. So in the first category, so when you are in the phase of when you are in the training phase, or when you are a fresh assistant professor, lecturer, senior lecturer, lecturer 1, lecturer 2, senior lecturer in the university. At that stage, you're actually at what is called the career development phase of your professional development. And what funders are looking for at that stage, when they give you a grant at that stage, they are actually not investing in your science per se. They are not under the illusion that in 2 or 3 years, you're going to find cure for cancer. What they're investing in is actually you as a person, career development. That is what they're investing in. So when you write that kind of grant, depending on, you need to read the request for application, what they're looking for and all that. But a true training and career development grant, when we review it, what you lay emphasis on are: 1, who is this person? 2, what background, exposure, and training has he had for me to invest, or for the funder to invest in the person? So that's the second thing. The third thing is that because you are in the career development phase, they want to look at your mentors and your mentoring environment. I don't look at mentoring as just one person. What you actually look at is you look at the person's mentoring environment. Okay, so that's number 3. The fourth thing that they look at is actually your career development plan. How are you going to move from point A to point B to point C? What are the resources that are available within your institution, apart from the money that they're going to give you, that will enable you to move from point A from point A to point B to point C? Okay, so the reviewers will have to believe in all that and actually agree with you in all that. You notice that I've not said anything about the research design and itself. So the 5th one is actually your approach to solving the problem. So that's the research design. And that is actually where people actually understand that at this stage, I don't expect you to write like, at that stage, I don't expect you to write like Professor Adeni Igbadigation, right? So essentially, if you write that and there are some minor weaknesses here and there, people actually do not mark you down for that. What people mark you down for are: 1, okay, he described some how he's going to go about this and the people that are going to guide him in doing this. I actually do not believe in the plan that this person has put together. I don't think it's going to work. Plus, I actually do not feel the mentor and the mentoring environment as being very, very robust enough to facilitate the success of this person. So that's one category. All right. Now, I think I actually have something, a slide or two present that I prepared for how to put a research project together. I will show this and I will send this to Professor Egbertokun after this, so that you can actually distribute it.
No, you can actually show it now if it helps to make the point right now.
Exactly.
I was going to come after you finish answering this question. The next question I was going to come to is in relation to, so how do I package a proposal to make it fundable?
Exactly.
So maybe when we come to that question, you can then show the slide.
Exactly. The second category are the folks that we call, established investigator. reader, associate professor, professor. So basically, when when you are at that level and you are putting a proposal together, you need to up your game, because what people are looking for in that are significance of what you are proposing to do, the novelty and the innovation of what you are proposing to do. Okay, and then they are also looking, do you have those all the things that you've done in the past and all the things that you've achieved in the past? Can we actually entrust you with a couple of $1 million there, and you will be able to do this? So the bar and the stake is very high. So for early career investigator and trainees, the funder is actually investing in the person, and they are investing in the person. So what they're looking for is they're going to scrutinize the person very well. They're going to scrutinize your mentor career development plan very well. For established investigator, it's like, why do you want to do this? What is the significance of this? What is the innovation in this? What is the novelty in this? What are you proposing to do that, why should I invest in this? So that's actually very, very important. Nobody will give you money to reinvent the wheel. So those are the big things that you actually have to look at, looking at the big picture. I would be more than happy to do another session at some point in the future on anatomy of a grant, whether you are whether you're in technology, engineering, law, humanities, education, medicine. The language of science and the language of grants are actually very similar.
That's an interesting note to to end that one on. And to be honest, I'll take you up on that offer. We will have another session where the only thing we'll be talking about will be exactly how to write a research proposal. But you see, one of the reasons I got into it quite quickly, because I have a couple of other, personal and experience-based questions that I wanted to ask. But I know that there's always a lot to cover when you're talking about research funding. So next, I wanted to ask you to at least walk us through, and it's good that you already mentioned it when you were answering the previous question. So how should I package a proposal? We will come to that, but before you share your slides, Prof, there were two things I picked up, and I wanted you to speak to them just so that we don't leave anything hanging. One of that is that you alluded to that the fact that funders are looking for different things depending on career stages. So I want you to help us understand what are these different career stages and how can any of our listeners identify what career stage they are at the moment. Is it about whether I have a PhD or I don't have, or how many years after my PhD, and so on and so forth? That's one part of that question. The B part of that question, which is also closely related, is so what should be the consideration when I want to put together my career development plan, depending on what stage I am at in my career?
Thank you so much. Very, very interesting question. So when we talk about, career development grant, it's the other name for career development grant is actually mentored grant. Okay. So again, there's a reason why they call it mentored grant. So mentoring is actually very important. So I don't think there's actually any set of criteria. I think the most important thing is when you see a call for application, take your time to read it carefully, to look at what is this funder looking for? Am I interested in it? Okay, so that's very, very important. There is no point in saying that, okay, Bill and Melinda Gates said they're going to give, $5 million to build, toilets and bathroom in Oyo. I know that that's not the money is very good, but that's not something that I have the skill to do. That's not something that I have the experience to do. That is actually not my area of interest. So I won't even look at it. Okay. So you have to look at what the funders are looking for. You have to ensure that what the funders are looking for actually align with your area of research. Now, having said that, there are some opportunities in that maybe you've not worked in it, and then you look at it and wow, this is very interesting, and this is I can do this, that kind of thing. That is where collaboration actually starts in. So you look around your network and see, oh, is there somebody who is actually doing this, who I may actually collaborate with in putting this together. So that's very important. In terms of timeline about when one can apply for career development award, I think it varies between funders. And so, for example, in the US, and they actually have in the US the career development program from the NIH. At least I know of NIH and NSF, National Science Foundation. They actually have a cutoff point for when you can actually apply for career development award. I think after getting your exit degree, which is a PhD, or finishing postgraduate training, if you are a medical doctor, I think they have some kind of thing that you should be within certain number of years. I don't quote me, I think it's actually between 5 to 10 years. So if you are beyond 10 years, out of your terminal degree, you cannot apply for a career development award. So that's number one. The second thing is that actually the way, even if you are within, the way you package a career development award is actually very, very important. So so I've read grants before where someone is applying for a career development award. The person has been very, very successful, has published about 50 to 60 manuscripts. So the question usually I ask is that this is a career development grant. It's not a grant for emeritus professor, and you've been this successful to write 50 to 60 papers. I think you're actually ready for prime time. I actually cannot think about the career development activity that will actually get you to the next level. What you need to do is you need to join the big boys. Okay. So that's very important. So I don't think there is actually any specific guidelines on when you can apply for that. But I will imagine that somebody just coming, just finishing PhD, postdoctoral candidates, or folks that are still in the I've forgotten this now. So senior lecturer, lecturer 1, lecturer 2 will actually
it's lecturer 2, lecturer 1, then senior lecturer.
Senior lecturer. So lecturer 2, lecturer 1, senior lecturer. Those are the people that will actually be eligible for most, career development award. So here in the US is actually assistant professor and below. So assistant professor, instructor, and all that.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, sir. So one of the key things that I think that made me ask that question is, we get this question all the time where someone says that, am I still eligible for a postdoctoral fellowship, which is a form of career development, grant, after 7 years, 9 years, 10 years after my PhD? And I think you've already clarified that. Sometimes there is a sense in which the donors will tell you that if you are beyond so number of years after your PhD, you cannot apply. But there's also a sense of the kind of profile that you have, right? So if 3-4 years after your PhD, you already have the achievements of a professor, it's not likely that anybody wants to give you a career development award anymore, I think, because the purpose then is defeated, isn't it?
Exactly. Let me just clarify that point now. So when you are in that kind of situation, you need to package it in such a way to let people know that, okay, I've been very, very successful because I'm outstanding. So that's number one. And then when people see that, what they do, that's the reviewers, when they see that, what they then do is they go to your career development plan. And that is actually what is going to determine whether they want to invest in you or not. What is, despite this person's achievement, are there more skills that this person needs to acquire to make the person more successful? Okay, they will scrutinize that carefully. When they look at that and they can't say anything, they will simply tell you you need to join the big boys and the big girls.
That's something to aspire for. I think I'm sure that everyone with us today, we agree that that's something to aspire for. So, Prof, now let's turn to the question of how to package a proposal. In fact, there's been a comment in the chat about the session that you mentioned earlier, that we would like a session on the anatomy of a full proposal, how it should look like. But for now, let it suffice for you to walk us through how to package a proposal. So you may please go ahead and share your screen, sir.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do with this is that I will just talk about what I consider the most important part of a grant. And believe it or not, the most important part of a grant is that one page that we call aims page, specific aim page, or in other specialty, the page that you call objective, or the objective of what you are doing. You have to prepare that page, because most of the reviewers will actually not read the whole grant, your whole grant. Most of the reviewers that will actually have a say is probably about 2 or 3 people on a panel of 10 that will actually read your grant from page 1 to page 100 or whatever. And most of the other people on the panel who are actually going to vote whether we should fund this or not fund this, that page, that specific aim page, is actually what they're going to read. So what I tell my trainees is that you have to make your specific aim page not just watertight, it should be gas tight. If I cannot figure out what you are doing from that page, I think, things actually starts going down from that. And to be honest with you, let me just tell you how important that is. I used to spend, first of all, you need time when you are putting grant together. You need months. It's not something that you just go and say, oh, I can put this together in 2 weeks. No, you need, very good planning. And the rule of the thumb is that you need about 3 to 4 months. Now, out of that 3 to 4 months, if you take about 4 to 6 weeks to put this page together, you will just discover that writing the rest of the grant things will just flow and actually fall in place. And I learn on the job. It used to take me 6 to 8 weeks, to do this. And at the end of the day, people will read it. Yeah, I actually don't understand what you say you're actually doing, until when I actually attended a class and somebody was telling me that, you write a grant from a research project. So what you need to do is to have a stepwise way by which you actually build a research project. And that's actually what I'm going to show now. So let me see, share slide.
Okay, so while Prof is sharing his slides, if there are any further questions, I picked up on that one in the chat already, and Prof already spoke about it. Any other questions? There will be, after this block, I'm going to open the room for live questions so that we can have some conversation before we run out of time.
Sorry, Professor Betogun, this says sharing is not turned on. So you said I should send request. So send request. Okay.
It should be. Sharing is enabled, actually.
Okay, let me try again. Share.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
okay.
It's enabled.
All right.
Right.
So let's just say share. Okay.
Yes.
Can you all see my slide?
We can see your slides. Dr.
We can see.
May probably co-host, just make sure. But I think we can see your slides now. Thank you.
Okay, you can see my slide. Okay, so slide show. Okay, so from beginning. Okay, so I think I have some bits and pieces on mentoring at the beginning of this slide. I think we should actually come to this later. I got it from this guy's book, Bob Lefkowitz. Okay. Okay. So
now the good thing is that, Prof, I said we were going to come back to the question of mentorship before we finish. So let's go to the funding bit now, and then we'll come back to that.
Exactly. So I call these steps in developing scientific concepts for your grant. And I think when we started discussing this in a group that I belong to. I think we actually started, the person said, 13 steps. I said, yeah, no, 13 is not a good number. 15 steps, 15 is not a good number. Can you actually compress it into 10? So we actually compress it into 10. So 10 steps in developing scientific concepts for your grant. Okay. So the first one is, what is the critical problem that your research will address? What is the problem that you are trying to solve? Okay. All right. Then the second thing is, what is the broad scientific questions of significance that your research will address to solve this problem? Okay. So there is a problem. Yes, there is a problem. It's actually not every problem that actually required, robust solution. There are some problems then that you can actually solve by common sense. Okay. But you need to talk about the significance of the problem. If I solve this problem, how impactful is it going to be? Okay. Again, the question of not reinventing the wheel is very, very important. Okay. What specific facts are currently known about this overall question? And that's the reason why literature review is actually very, very important. There is nothing more embarrassing than somebody putting a grant together saying that, well, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then somebody just pulled it off. But this was actually published in 1990. So what are we talking about? So literature review is actually very important. You need to have the background of information about what is known about the problem that you are trying to address and what are the gaps. Okay, so that actually brings to the next one. What are the outstanding specific questions? The things that are not known, the things that need to be answered to address the overall question. Okay. Now, whether you are doing environmental law or you are doing technology or you are trying to develop an innovative way of delivering content as an educator, whether you are trying to solve a clinical problem, you must have a model. What model systems are available to answer these specific questions? Okay. If you do not have a model that you want to use, that's a big problem. So how do you hope to solve the problem? So for example, I'm talking about, there's actually a problem. We do not know how this, medication work because of XYZ, because we do not have a robust animal model, or we do not have a very robust culture system. So part of my prelim data will actually be that, this has been the problem. This is the problem. This is the reason why the problem has not been solved. In my background to putting this together, I've actually devised a method, a cell culture method that will actually overcome all the barriers that previous investigators in this field have not been able to solve. Okay. So based on what is unknown and the model systems that are available, what are the specific questions that you want to address in your research plan? Okay, so typically what I tell people is actually make a list. So this is question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4. Okay, and then the one important thing that you have to note is that you must ensure that these questions are non-overlapping. The reason why the question should be non-overlapping is this. So you proposed a specific aim, aim 1 that you are going to survey 2,000 people in Oyo to determine the prevalence of genetic risk factor for chronic kidney disease. Okay, all right. And then your aim 2 will actually be that you are going to test association between you are going to test the association between this genetic defect and risk of developing kidney disease or some other intercurrent morbidity. So the first thing is that in question one, you want to identify a genetic defect. Okay, all right. And then in question 2, you want to see how that genetic defect actually causes stuff and whatever. Okay, so if you do not identify a genetic defect in question 1, you can't do question 2. So the whole project will fail. That is why you must have significant non-overlapping questions. And so when I talk to our trainees and our junior faculty, usually what I tell them is that make a list of about 5 things. In most grants, so my rule of the thumb is for career development grants and training grants, and you actually do not need more than 2 specific aims. Make sure that these 2 specific aims are non-overlapping. For project grant, for the big boys and the big girls, you probably need about 3 to 4 aims. So you make a list of about 6 questions, and you actually prioritize those questions. Pick the most important, the 2 or 3 most important non-overlapping one. Okay? Then you list the question. Okay? And then what you then do is actually to list the possible answers to each question. Are there genetic risk factors predisposing to liver disease in people from southwestern Nigeria? So the answer to that will be yes or no. So you have your null hypothesis, and then you have your alternative hypothesis. Okay? All right? And then for each question, you have to select the answer that is most likely to be correct. And that is actually based on the background work and the literature review that you've done. And then you now use that to actually frame your hypothesis. So you combine your 3 most significant, first of all, you select your 3 most important questions. You provide the most likely answers to those 3 questions. And it is those things then that you actually now string together to form your overall hypothesis. Any studies that we are doing, any research proposal that we want to submit, there must be what I call a testable hypothesis. You need an hypothesis. If you do not have a testable hypothesis, it's probably not going to fly. So examples are these. You want to investigate some. You want to determine the prevalence of a certain condition in Lagos or something like that, and and then your specific aim, the first specific aim is that, I'm going to build a database of people with XYZ. So database is not an hypothesis. The hypothesis is actually what you're going to do with that database. Okay. So the 3 questions that you have addressed will now form the basis of your aims. And then you just start from number 1 and actually just add flesh to each of your response to the question. And that's actually how you build a specific aim page. Like I said, your specific aim page has to be not just water, it has to be gas tight, because that is actually the first impression that the reviewer is going to get. The reviewer is going to read your project summary, and the reviewer is going to read your specific aim page. If they're not convinced, after reading those 2 pages, it's highly unlikely that the grant will fly. Okay? So, like I said, I will send this slide deck to Professor Egbetokun after this, so that you can actually distribute it to folks.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. That's extremely useful. I might also mention at this point, as I said in the beginning, that we're live streaming these on YouTube. I'll put the link on the Congress group subsequently after the session. So those who are not able to join us will be able to catch up. Now, Dr. Abiodun Adesina left a question in the chat, which I believe you've answered, Prof. It's, do we have research questions and hypothesis in medical research? I think in the course of explaining these steps, you have actually touched on that, the relevance of hypotheses and the centrality of research questions and how to develop that. Before we move on, I wanted to open the floor for colleagues who have questions. If you can just unmute yourself and or no, I think it might be easier if you just indicate by raising your hand. I will unmute you and then you ask your question. If anyone has a live question, please do indicate by using the digital tools to raise your hand, in which case I will unmute you and then you get a chance to ask your question. So while we await that, or if you prefer, please just type your questions in the chat. While we await that, Prof, I would like us to go back to the question of mentorship, at least before you take down the slides.
Okay.
So, and this is actually the specific question that I have. How do you find a good mentor? I mean, there's a lot of information that you have given us. There's a lot of directions and guidance.
Okay.
And I know that in implementing all of this, it helps if you find someone to hold your hands in the beginning.
Yes.
So how do you find a good one?
Okay.
So before you answer that, Prof, we have a hand. Dr. Abiodun Adeshina, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
I want to really appreciate the Oyo Scholars administration that put this across to us today. I have been enjoying it, and I want to register that Professor Rashid Barigesi has really done a yeoman's task to the question I asked. The reason why I raised the question before was in my own research team, especially my faculty is science education, and based on the being member of the research and publication committee, I'm of orientation of science education. Those in pure science always claim that pure science research does not warrant raising research questions and hypotheses. That pure science research is about just reviewing literature and getting some ideas, data collected, analyze the data, and making discussion. But from what Professor presented this evening, I've really screenshot those two slides that he projected. I'll send it to our research team to think about it. Who is really right is Professor Rashid, that is based at international community, very wrong for telling us that there should be conjecture of idea in research questions, and which are going to be dovetailed into hypotheses to guide the research. Or they that said they are in pure science, that there's no need for research question and hypothesis. I really appreciate that illumination Professor have said on that aspect. The question I want to ask now is, research needs collaboration, being multidisciplinary in nature. How effective and efficient should we collaborate?
Okay.
And what are those tips that will enhance effective collaboration research?
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Adeshina. So, fantastic question that you've asked. So, in terms of, let me just pass comment on the first thing. Okay, so what the folks are describing to you, the folks that are telling you that hypothesis is not necessary and, you know, in pure science, essentially what they're describing to you is that I just want to do this to write a paper. A serious research funder is not funding you to write a paper. A serious funder is actually giving you research to solve a real life problem, whether it is in education, whether it is in law, whether it is in environment, whether it is in medicine. So that is very important. Now, let me just throw a note of caution about that. One other interesting field that, you know, I've read some grants before is that I've read grants before and I'm like, okay, you're not writing like the way we write in medicine, is actually engineering. So one thing to note about engineering is engineering usually starts from building stuff and then saying that, okay, we have built this. How can we use this to solve a problem? In a way, it is still hypothesis driven. The only thing is that when they are writing that kind of grant, they will tell you how they are going to build this. That's going to be the major part of the grant. And then after we built this is the hypothesis that we are going to test to ensure that this thing that we've built is actually solving a problem. So So that's actually a very, very important thing. You know, Dr. Adeshina, I've forgotten your question. What's the question now?
He was asking about collaboration. So
Okay.
how
Oh my God. Yeah.
how important is collaboration and
So
how
collaboration is very, very important, and the what people actually talk about these days is actually what we call team science. So you have to do the research programs and that are most impactful are actually research programs that are multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary. I cannot overemphasize that. Now, in building a research team is actually like building any community. First of all, you must find like minds together. You must find like minds that actually have expertise in the question that you're trying to answer. Now, the third thing is that we come from different background. When Dr. Okoyemi Gbadigeshin is talking about environmental law, there are some jargons in that he's going to be talking about and that I may not understand very well. When Professor Kolade is talking about artificial intelligence and how one can actually use that to map some stuff, there are some jargons in that is going to put in there that is going to be unclear to me. When I talk about the 2 billion nucleotides that actually make up our genetic that actually makes up our that actually guide our genetic makeup and how we do things. There are some folks that will not understand that. So one important thing about multidisciplinary research is that we must understand the language that we are speaking. We must all speak the same language. Okay, nucleotides. Rashid, what is nucleotides? Okay. Professor Kolade, neural language. So when you say neural, the first thing that comes to my mind is brain. Are you talking about, human brain, that kind of thing? So like minds, people with the requisite expertise, people that are going to speak people that will meet and ultimately start speaking the same language. Those are the recipe for a successful transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and multidisciplinary research. I must say that most of my impactful work to date have actually resulted from from collaborative science.
And thank you very much for that clear response. There's another question in the chat which I would like you to address. Now, when you talk about the mentoring using the slides, can someone be a mentee or collaborator under a mentor in a related field of study? I'm not quite sure how to interpret related field of study there. Does that I'm guessing the asker of that question is probably referring to, do we need to stay within our own field to look for mentors, or can we look for mentors outside the field?
That's an absolute no. So what we should be promoting is actually what I call holistic mentoring. So you cannot be mentored by one single individual. So you need mentor for your career progression generally. You need mentor for who are experts, who are subject content experts in the research that you are doing. You need mentors who will actually share the experience about how you actually take care of yourself while you are doing, all this work. So, for example, in the US, when one of the challenges that I faced when I started my research career here is that when we were having a meeting, there are probably 20, 30 people. Most likely I will be the only Black person there and the only person that has accent. So I'm talking like this, they will simply look, who is this person? That kind of thing. So you need, mentoring is not just about, how to write grant, how to be successful, how to write paper and be successful. Mentoring should be holistic. It should actually take care of all your needs. All your needs, and all those needs should actually be working towards your being successful as a biomedical researcher. So with that, I will actually get into this now. So just some kind of background information about Bob Lefkowitz. So Bob Lefkowitz is a professor of medicine. He's actually a cardiologist here at Duke University, and he won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2012. This is a very, very interesting guy. And when I started the Physician Scientist Development Program at my institution, the mentoring program that I'm supposed to be leading, people talk about all sorts of things that, oh, you need to attend all these classes about mentoring, you need to read all these books and whatever. And usually what I tell them is I think it's actually common sense, that kind of thing. You have to be you have to be a nice person, you have to be passionate about what you are doing, and if you are a nice person, you are passionate about what you are doing, you shouldn't have problem in, just taking people along with you and actually help them to succeed. That's usually what I tell people. Of course, never mind, there are some things, we are putting training grant together and whatever. There are actually some boxes that we need to check. We have to go for what they call, mentor training. Like I said, most of the things that the experts come to talk there about, as far as I'm concerned, they're actually common sense. Until when I read, so I met Bob. I think what I did was I got this book, I read the book, and in a very, very relaxed and non-technical ways, he actually described what a mentor should be and how a mentee should actually choose a mentor. So I actually do not know what to call this book because he and his former mentee, that's Dr. Randy Orr, who is actually at Emory University, actually put this book together. So I don't know whether to call this biography or autobiography. It's just like a book that I read when I was working in Nigeria. I believe it's actually by Professor Niyi Oshundari, where he was actually making fun of the Nigerian politicians, talking about facts and fiction. And he actually called the novel a faction. So I really do not know how to call what to call Bob's book, but it was actually written by him and his mentee. Okay, so Bob Lefkowitz got a Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2012. And he has these 10 golden rules of mentoring, okay? Number one, that you actually have to tailor mentoring to individual needs. That's what I call concierge mentoring. So there are some people that you have to start from the stage of what is an hypothesis, okay? And then there are some other people that will come in and they will, in meeting with them within 30 to 40 minutes, they will actually tell you what an hypothesis is and then, put the things together and actually tell you, okay, this is the skill that I'm actually after. Okay, you need to encourage focus. This is very, very important at the beginning of one's career. There are so many things that are out there, senior folks saying, oh, this is very important, and why don't you look at this? Why don't you do this and whatever? So go for your passion. You need to have a niche. So you identify a specific niche. A mentor is supposed to encourage a mentee to identify a specific focus, a specific niche, something that the person is actually passionate about, okay? You have to fan the flames of enthusiasm. Your mentee has to be excited about the project that they're doing, and you as the mentor will have to be excited about that project. If you are not excited about the project, you are not going to mentor this person very well, okay? Again, this is very important. You should build careers around problems, not techniques, because funders generally want to give people money, right, to solve problems. So in our mentee, it's always, so what? We should always ask the question, so what? Why is this important? So that's number one. The second thing is, techniques. You can always identify people to collaborate with you. People with, so I have a problem now and I said, okay, this is a big problem, but I need a mouse model to actually solve this problem. I don't know how to create this mouse model. I'm sure the mouse model is somewhere and there's actually someone there who actually who is actually, working on this. And so I'll just tell the person, this is what you are doing with this mouse model, but I actually want to use it to answer this question. So you can learn the technique from the person, or you can ask the person to collaborate with you. So not knowing a technique should never be, learning. You cannot build a career about learning a technique. You should encourage your mentee to build their careers around problems. So you should have medium-term plans, long-term plans. What people want to fund, and the kind of people that funders want to fund is actually people that will enjoy doing things for decades. Okay, risk-taking is very important, but there is something that is called high risk, high yield. Most of the time, some funders are actually a little bit reluctant about funding, high risk projects. However, that is what the institutions are made for, because there's a reason why they call it high risk, high reward. Okay, it's high risk because it has a very high potential of failing, but if it succeeds, the reward is usually very, very high. So we should encourage our mentees to take risk, and taking risk should actually increase as you advance in the field. You have to be very, very persistent. You have to encourage your mentee to take ownership of a project. There are different things that are going on in the lab. Okay, this is your specific area. This is the problem for you to solve. You are the owner. In a couple of years after working on this project, you are going to be the expert on this. Okay? Storytelling is very, very important, and you put things in numbers and all that, and then you are throwing numbers at people and whatever. When you illustrate things for people are actually much more captivating, and they're actually able to see the extent of the problem. So I'm a pediatric kidney doctor. So when I'm talking about, chronic kidney disease, I will talk about the billions of dollars that the US government actually spend in looking after patients with chronic kidney disease. But who is going to remember the number? So one way of saying it is that, oh yeah, just look at it, that that money is actually more than what the US government actually spend in funding the whole of the National Institute of Health in a year. Or talking about, prevalence of chronic kidney disease, you give about, yes, XXYZ millions of people are living with chronic kidney disease. The way to put it in terms of, telling stories so that people can actually conceptualize it is just to say that the number of people with chronic kidney disease in the US actually outnumbered all the people living in the state of California, which is the largest state in the US. So you have to emphasize storytelling, you have to illustrate, okay? And then above all, you have to enjoy what you are doing. You have to laugh and have fun. There is a lot of, ups and downs, but what you look at is actually the big picture, not the initial, oh, there's a little setback. Of course, you have to respect your own mentors too. Okay, so for mentees, what do you look for in a mentor? You need to choose a mentor, not a project. Okay, so you have this person. Oh, I like this person a lot. I like what he's doing. We are broad subject area. We are in the same field, but it's not doing the exact project that you are doing. As long as the person is a subject content in your area, it doesn't have to be doing specifically the things that you are doing. In fact, one of the important things with mentoring is that it will actually help you shape the project. Okay? You must know what you want to be when you grow up. So a mentor should at the same time be a role model for you. Okay? When you want to choose a mentor, you need to look for somebody who has a track record. The person has a track record. The person must have mentored different people in the past. So talk to the person's current mentees and talk to the people that this person has mentored in the past. Okay, so ask the question, whom has he trained? Okay, so a good mentor in my world must be optimistic, must be passionate, must have intellectual boldness, must be an excellent communicator, must enjoy mentoring, must have generosity of spirit, and the mentor must be available and accessible. And if the person is not available and accessible, the person must have a program in place so that the mentee can always reach out to the person. In my world, a very good mentee, a very good mentor is someone that I do not need to book 1 week appointment to see. It's someone that I can actually just go to the person's door, knock the door. Hey, can I just ask you one quick question? And say, yeah, sure. Or the person will just tell me, no, I don't have time now. Can you come back in a couple of hours? That's what a mentor is supposed to do. So that is the briefing that I have on that. I thought that this is actually best done by having this and then discussing it. And that's why I put this slide together. Like I said, I'm going to send the slide to Prof. Egbetokun, and Egbetokun is going to share this with the members of the Oyo Scholar community.
All right. Thank you very much, Prof. I'm aware that we have to finish in about 9 minutes, so we will be able to take maybe 1 or 2 pressing questions. Otherwise, I would ask Prof to answer one important question for me very briefly, so that we can wrap up. So in about 4 minutes, Prof, can you tell me, or tell us, not only me now, tell all of us, if you had to identify one particular defining moment in your career, which one would it be? And by defining here, I'm agnostic in terms of how you rate it. It could be positive, it could be negative, but one particular moment in your career to date that you think changed, the course of everything you're doing. What would that moment be?
Okay, so the one particular moment that I can think about was when I finished. So I did all my training, medical school, postgraduate training in Nigeria and the UK, actually before coming to the US. And when I got to the US, I have to do an abbreviated, what we call residency program again. I did that, and then I started subspecialty training. I wasn't actually planning to do subspecialty training because I just look at it that it's bad enough that I've done everything and then I'm just starting all over again. But then each time I get back from work, I'll be talking to my wife about, said, yeah, all these things is just not worth my time. And she said, well, it's looking like you have to do, subspecialty. It's looking like what you are talking about is that you want to do your subspecialty training all over again. So I decided that I'm going to do the subspecialty training, got into University of Michigan, training program, and I have a set of ideas in my head when I interviewed, and they actually assured me that, oh, okay, all these things are available. So I got there, and it turned out that the reality actually dawned on me that actually what I was planning to do, they are actually very important things, but it is not something that I can actually do sitting down in an institution. Okay. I'd done genetic research before, and I basically identified someone who was actually doing cutting edge research within the institution. As they say, the rest, essentially I got into this person and I said, okay, this is actually what I call exact science. And things just went, upward, was actually on upward trajectory from there. So that's number one. The second thing, in terms of negative things that I actually converted to positive is usually, so at the beginning of my career, when I enter a place, it's like they will, first of all, I do not look about, if there are 20 people in the room, there won't be a single person that actually look like me. Then I open my mouth. Sometimes, the Oyo thing comes into me. Instead of saying SH, I actually say S, that kind of thing. That really, that kind of thing. It's fun. I like it. And there's always this thing like, yeah, who is this person? This person doesn't belong here. And then they ask question and I just answer question, and then they actually start to listen. And then from there, it's like, okay, we need to ask for this person's opinion. So those are some of the things. But the most defining moment for me was actually what I just said about when I was doing fellowship at the University of Michigan. What I set out to do when I was entering that fellowship is actually not what I'm doing now. Although what I'm doing now, I've done it before, but I didn't think that it's actually something that I will build my career around. The rest is history now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. This is so wonderful. I mean, it's as if we should have the entire time to continue talking about this, but we have to bring it to a stop at some point. I've already just put the a thank you note to you, Prof, on the on the group WhatsApp. I put it on the group WhatsApp, and I put the link to the YouTube live stream there as well for everyone to catch up. Thank you so much for your time, Prof.
Yeah, so be Olubadan Kone. I can't remember which Olubadan. No, that said I can do PRNU. That would be response to that. Okay, I think that's Ashanike.
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Baba Shanke. Yeah.
All right.
So for those who may not know, Professor Rashid Badegeshi is the Wilbert C. Davidson Distinguished Professor of Pediatrics, and is also Associate Dean for Physician Scientist Development, which is a role that he alluded to, in the course of the conversation, where he helps to develop the next generation. And I'm sure that I'm speaking for everybody when I say that, Prof, this has been very, very useful. And like I said, I will pick you up on the point made earlier about having a sequel to this. We'll try and fix it in the calendar. You and I will have a chat around when might be the most appropriate date for us to do that. But for the sake of everyone else, we are planning to continue to have this conversation once a month on the last Friday of every month. The time might vary a bit because we have people all over the globe, and the time zone would vary. Next month, we are hoping that we would have Baba Ayongadibun, and with him, Reverend Dr. Kongadi Ongadene will be in conversation. That is the plan. So I'm hoping that God will grant us that opportunity to make it happen. And our theme today has been research funding. Our theme with Baba Ongadibun will be about community development and leadership, which I think is also a very, very timely topic for us to be talking about. So with 3 minutes of change, again, on our time, I want to thank you once more, Professor Badegeshi, and then ask if you have any final thoughts for the early career researcher in the room, for the mid-career researcher in the room, or even for senior scholars. What do you think we should be doing the rest of this year in 1 minute?
All I can say is that this is a fantastic program. I say a big congratulations to people who actually came up with this program. This is what we should be doing. And I will encourage us to spread the word that this is available, this resource is available to our very vibrant community. And I'm actually very, very hopeful for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I don't know if Professor Sheon Kongade is able to speak now for a few seconds. I know that you might be on the move. Are you there, Professor Kongade?
Thank you so very much, Dr. Betoko. I mean, I don't have anything else to add other than to really thank our big brother, distinguished Professor Rashid Badegeshi, for your time. But even more so for your passion, for your commitment to the community and to our people. Thank you so very much, and I very much look forward to the sequel as well. Thank you.
Yeah, we will definitely do everything we can to make the sequel happen. Don't worry, Prof. I'll catch up with you after.
Excellent, fantastic. Right. Prof. Betokun, can you send me an email? I think you can get my email address from Professor Kolade so that I can send you the PowerPoint slide by email rather than by WhatsApp. Okay.
Okay, that's right. Fine. I can get it also from your profile.
Okay.
So if the official email will work, then I will just send you an email right away.
Fantastic.
All
okay.
Right.
All right.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Right. I really appreciate everyone who has made out time to join us live. And I wish you a very wonderful rest of your weekend. Have a restful Saturday and Sunday ahead before we begin to start applying all of the things that Prof has taught us this morning, starting from next Monday.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And
bye.
bye.